Iran is claiming that its newest long-range drone, the Arash-2, has successfully penetrated Israel's air defenses and struck one of the country's most critical sites, Gurion Airport. According to Iranian statements, the intended targets were not random. They focused on fuel storage and aviation, infrastructure, assets essential for keeping military aircraft operational. If true, this suggests a deliberate attempt to disrupt Israel's ability to project air power, not just a symbolic strike. But what makes this situation more significant is the weapon itself. The Arash-2 isn't being described as a typical drone. Analysts are increasingly comparing it to a low-cost cruise missile. It reportedly carries a much larger payload than earlier. Iranian drones can travel up to around 2,000 kilometers, roughly the distance between Iran and major Israeli cities like Tel Aviv. Its design emphasizes range, simplicity, and low visibility. Flying at relatively low altitudes and with a small radar signature, it may be harder to detect using systems designed primarily for different types of threats, such as short-range rockets. Iran has openly stated in the past that this drone was developed with specific targets in mind. That long-term planning is now part of the narrative they are pushing, that this is not a one-off attack, but part of a broader sustained strategy. However, this is where the story becomes more complex. Israel maintains that its air defense systems, like Iron Dome and others, are intercepting the majority of incoming threats, and in many cases that's true. But even successful interceptions can create unintended consequences. There have been confirmed reports of damage inside airport grounds in recent days. Israeli officials say this was caused by falling debris from intercepted projectiles, not direct hits. Still, the result is the same: aircraft damaged, disruptions to operations, and a sense that even successful defense carries risk. That leads to a bigger issue: operational impact. Following these incidents, flight activity at Ben Gurion Airport was significantly restricted. Airlines reduced service, some routes were canceled, and reports indicated that aircraft had even been moved out of the country as a precaution earlier in the conflict. This highlights something often overlooked. Ben Gurion isn't just a civilian airport. It plays a major role in logistics, trade, and at times military coordination. Disrupting it, even temporarily, has ripple effects across the entire system. Now let's talk about the numbers, because this is where the strategic pressure really builds. Since the escalation began, Iran has launched large volumes of drones and missiles. Even if a high percentage are intercepted, a small percentage getting through can still translate into dozens or more successful strikes. And then there's the cost imbalance. Drones like the Arash-2 are relatively inexpensive compared to the systems used to intercept them. Defensive missiles can cost significantly more than the targets they destroy. Over time, that creates a strain, not just financially, but logistically. It becomes a question of sustainability. Military experts have acknowledged that no defense system is perfect, especially when dealing with large numbers of small, low-cost aerial threats. Technologies like laser-based systems are being developed, but they still have limitations, particularly in range and weather conditions. So what we're seeing is a shift toward what's known as attrition warfare, where the goal isn't necessarily to break defenses in one strike, but to gradually wear them down. And this conflict is no longer contained. Reports indicate that incidents connected to this broader escalation have affected multiple countries across the region. While not every claim has been independently verified, the geographic spread alone suggests rising instability. At the same time, there's another layer to all of this: the strategic tension surrounding Iran's nuclear program. International agencies report that Iran has accumulated significant amounts of enriched uranium. That has raised concerns globally, and discussions are reportedly ongoing about how to respond if the situation escalates further. So now there are two parallel pressures: a growing drone and missile campaign and a high-stakes standoff over nuclear capabilities. These are not separate issues, they are deeply connected. And together, they point to a conflict that is evolving quickly, with implications far beyond a single strike or a single location. So the real question is this: are we looking at a temporary escalation or the early stages of a much broader shift in modern warfare? Because if low-cost, long-range drones can consistently challenge advanced defense systems, that changes the equation, not just in this conflict, but everywhere. What happens next will depend on how both sides adapt, not just militarily, but strategically.